I've been very lucky. From my earliest, I was born and brought up in India, and my father was a commander-in-chief of the Central Army in India. When he was a young captain, he was ADC, aide-de-camp to the first president of India, Rajendra Prasad. And there are pictures in my house from my early memories, including now, if you go to my house, family house in India, of my father, my mother, with the Queen, with the Duke of Edinburgh on the state visit in 1961. And little did I think that fast forward, and I would actually have the privilege of not just meeting them, but meeting them many, many times and getting to know them, and as well as Prince Charles now, King Charles III. And it's been extraordinary. I mean, it's been an amazing inspiration. One of the things that people don't talk about enough is the devotion between the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. She used to refer to him as her rock.
Yes.
And I remember once coming out of the Zoroastrian Parsi community, which I'm a patron of here in the UK, one of the tiniest minority communities in the world, in Harrow. We went into the prayer room with the Duke of Edinburgh, had to take our shoes off. We came out of the prayer room, and we were both sitting next to each other, tying our shoelaces. And he turned around to me and said, "You know, I've had these shoes from the day I was married." And that was the sort of sentimentality that existed between the two of them. And sadly, he passed away last year. And very soon after that, you know, you saw her starting to use a walking stick. And,
yeah, I don't think she ever really recovered from losing Philip, actually. And so I've written a column for The Sun tonight about Prince Charles. I keep saying this. Everyone does, don't they? King Charles III. I've rarely seen any public figure rise to such momentous occasion, I don't think, in the way that he does. And as always, you write a column like that, and it certainly it will stand the test of time. But there was a moment today which I think just showed that underneath this exterior, which he's putting on, is a man that's just lost the mother that he loved, coming so soon after the father that he loved, under enormous pressure to hit the right tone and hit it running as our new monarch. And there was this moment where he went to sign an official document today with this ink pen, and this is how he reacted.
I just had to put, is it September 12th?
13th, sir.
Oh, God, I'm the wrong date. 13?
Yes, sir.
You said 12 earlier.
Where did I put the 12th? I was something 10. Oh, God, I hate this.
Oh, look, it's going everywhere. Hang on. So nobody got it wrong.
Where is the landlord?
Oh, look, it's everywhere.
Oh, there, this bloody thing. What do they do? Everyone's stinking.
I mean, this is for CBS News, this footage. I mean, I was surprised that we get to see that, actually. I think he should have been better protected. But it was an insight just into behind the veneer is a man who's under enormous pressure, both personally and professionally.
Well, yesterday I was privileged to be in Westminster Hall that was just being spoken about. This 900-year-old hall, one of the oldest parts of this country. I mean, along with Windsor Castle and the Tower of London, you have Westminster Hall and Westminster Abbey. These are the ancient parts of our country. And he spoke about that and how much it meant to him. And with all of us, Lords and members of Parliament over there. And you could see how moved he was. And actually, I saw a photograph today which showed that he was in tears during that occasion.
But Emily, that little snapshot there of him slightly losing his temper about a faulty pen, I just thought it just showed us that beneath all this, there must be a torrent of emotions raging inside this new king.
I'm sure, because he's probably also exhausted.
Yeah.
What I was interested to get more detail on today, which was George Bush's daughter was over to interview him. Was over here to interview the new Queen consort. And clearly they were not expecting the Queen to pass away, where my reading had slightly been that because our king had been with her all week, that they were concerned. So I think this really did come as a shock. I don't think they were expecting. So he will also be suffering still from the shock. And you don't, I imagine the amount that he's having to deal with and present himself, the speeches, becoming king. I doubt he's had any time to, I don't like using the word process, but in a way, as you say, he's not...
To properly grieve.
He's
I mean,
not,
how can he?
They
He's on
haven't
public...
had much, and I am surprised...
I mean, the world's cameras, Adam, aren't they? They're focused on this man now and his wife, Camilla. relentlessly from the second they appear in public, and they're having to appear in public all the time whilst going through what I would imagine is pretty intense grief.
Well, I agree with that, but on the other hand, the reason why the world's cameras are there is because, as the Queen said, you need to be seen, that these rituals that they're going through visiting the 4 nations of the country are important in terms of establishing the monarch as the head of state of all the United Kingdom. And, you know, I'm afraid my reaction looking at that footage, and I know all the pressures that you've mentioned and all the undoubted genuine grief, is my reaction is the Queen wouldn't have behaved like that.
Right.
And she
probably
would have made a joke of it. And
she probably wouldn't have actually had that happen in front of a camera. I mean, that's the thing. I'm surprised that he's not been better protected.
These signing ceremonies are part of the whole deal. I mean, that's why they're taking place. I mean, we saw, I don't know whether Lord Bilmoria was there, but at the accession ceremony, everyone who was there signed a document in public, and quite a lot.
But only CBS cameras were capturing that moment, and I'm just surprised we've been able to see it, because it does show a moment away from what we're seeing. I mean, he loses.
But I mean, I'm afraid I do think these instances, these off-camera moments, can be quite revealing about
they
what
can be. But I think we should cut him
like.
some slack. I want to talk, if I may, Lord Bilmoria. There's this issue about how far do you go to show the Queen respect in cancelling things. There's been a whole slew of things cancelled. The football was all cancelled at the weekend, but the cricket, the racing, the golf all went on and showed a respectful moment of silence and applause and then moved on, which I felt was the right way to handle it. What do you think about this? Centre Parks today, for example, have suddenly decided they're going to stop everything on Monday, on the day of the funeral, and remove every family who's on holiday there and tell them they've got to leave, which seems to me completely outrageous and the very last thing that Her Majesty would have wanted.
What has happened over here is you've got a figure that has sort of risen above all other people in the world in many ways for 70 years, and you've got this individual, this monarch of all monarchs, a queen of all queens, that is not just the most famous monarch in the world, but the most respected. I mean, I've received messages from every corner of the world.
So do you think Centre Parks were right?
So I'm saying that people, that if you look at the sentiment that people are expressing, look at the people who've started queuing to pay respects in Westminster Hall from yesterday. I remember yesterday when I went to swear my oath, I was told, one of the peers said, do you realise people have started...
But when you have a massive holiday company with a load of people who pay good money and they're told they have to leave all these parks around the country, I think that is a ridiculous way of supposedly showing the Queen respect.
I think what you're seeing is companies, frankly, using it as a bit of an excuse. I mean, I've had 2 of those, you know, those things when you phone up and you get a recorded message. 2 of them saying, oh, well, we can't get your message today because of the circumstances. And, you know, we know people, I think it was in Norwich, closed bicycle parking spaces as a market.
Well, there's food banks in Wimbledon are being closed on Monday. Yeah. And that caused outrage of people saying, well, let me get this straight. We're going to be shutting down food banks for the most desperate, hungry people in the country, whilst at the same time the reason given is because there's a funeral for one of the richest people in the world.
The only thing I would say, and I don't know whether quite how it works out, but rightly it's been called a bank holiday on Monday, a day for everyone to show their respect. And I think some companies may have contractual things with their employees about them not being there at bank holidays and all that kind of stuff.
And also maybe not wanting to be accused of not allowing their employees to mourn their Queen.
Emily, I wanted to talk to you about Princess Anne, who put out a statement just before we came on air saying how fortunate she felt to share the last 24 hours of my dearest mother's life. It's been an honour and a privilege to accompany her on her final journeys. Witnessing the love and respect shown by so many on which has been both humbling and uplifting. We will all share unique memories. I offer my thanks to each and every one who shares our sense of loss. And she then goes on to say that she offers very grateful for the support and understanding offered to her dear brother Charles as he accepts the added responsibilities of the monarch. To my mother, the Queen, thank you. I do think in many ways Anne is the most like her mother of all the other royals, actually. And watching her following her mother's hearse all around the country has been incredibly moving. I find, just watching...
They're incredibly moving. I think if you hear anyone talking about the royals, Anne is the unsung heroine.
Yes.
She's the hardest working royal.
The least celebrity
She's the least celebrity. She works the hardest. She doesn't chase the media.
Yeah.
She's never got caught in any kind of scandal. I mean, there may have been some when she was incredibly young, but it's
A few marriages.
been a few. No, one marriage. Now there's a second. I mean, and her children are exemplary. So I think a lot of people have a huge amount of affection for Princess Anne.
She's. I mean, again, I've been lucky and privileged to see this firsthand. And her private secretary, who retired recently, he always used to say, "I've got the hardest working boss in the world," and it was real. She worked really hard.
I think she's
totally
a real
that sense of
Well,
beauty.
and that, well, you say unsung. I mean, her title, the Princess Royal, was recognition, really. From,
No, I know. I
from
just
the
don't
Queen
think
of her
she ever
role.
gets the attention that a lot of the other royals get, and she should get more attention. I think she's been.
I think she
not
does.
sure she's that
I don't
keen
think
on
she
the
seeks
attention.
it.
No, I think that's right, yeah. Lord Bilmoria, just quickly about the economy. Everything's on hold this week in terms of the economy, and yet we know that ticking away is a gigantic financial crisis, a huge energy crisis, a lot of uncertainty in Ukraine. We're going to talk about that a little later in the programme, where it seems like the Ukrainians are making moves against the Russians successfully, but what will that inspire from Putin in terms of retaliatory action? All this uncertainty will make things more difficult financially for this country. What state are we in?
Well, actually, if you think about it right now, what's happened, it's unprecedented that last week you have a new prime minister and a new monarch in 1 week. And what a test of a country to see how resilient you are, that we all come together and you have this amazing transition that is taking place now, where we're all sad. I mean, we love the Queen and we're all sad.
But actually, if anything, suspending everything for 10 days will make the economic situation underneath all this worse.
What this is showing is the advantage of having a monarchy. One of the biggest advantages of a republic is you have this continuity and somebody who's apolitical, objective.
How does that help the economy?
It helps the economy in a big way because you have this stability, this constance, this steadfastness through that figure.
But that won't pay the bills, will it?
It will help a lot. It helps our economy. It helps our country. The soft power that the Queen gave our country.
But with your old
priceless.
CBI president hat on, how bad is the economic situation right now in this country?
The economic situation is dire. I mean,
As bad as you've ever seen it?
The energy crisis, it is as bad because you've had 2 years of a pandemic, then the sad war in Ukraine, it's crisis after crisis, then the unsettlement of Brexit, which started in 2016. So for 6 years in a row, we've had challenges that we've had to cope with. Now, I think the energy crisis, the good news is the government has said we're going to have a cap for consumers. They've got a plan for businesses. The big issue is the government has realised now that they helped during the pandemic, £400 billion. I kept saying, don't stop. You need to keep helping consumers and businesses. You can't suddenly say, I have no money. And Liz Truss is saying that she's...
Do you think she's on the right track?
Absolutely on the right track. Focusing on growth, focusing on incentivising investment, focusing on now saying, I'm going to help you, the cap of £2,500. These are all the right measures.
Lord Bilmoria, great to see you today. Thank you very much.